All right, so take us down a few of the things.
Okay, so the questions.
Yeah.
All right. So you asked me a question of who would I want to portray Anakin Skywalker in my prequels, and I guess so I have three choices, but one of them's kind of like an obsolete. Like if this was low budget and we had to make something, this is the guy who I would get. But okay, for my first choice, actually, I'll tell you my second choice first because I feel like my first choice will make you go, "Yeah, I see that." So
Oh, really?
my first choice would be Army Hammer, and I don't know if you know
Yeah,
him,
I know who you're talking about.
but
yeah.
but the only reason I thought of him was because he's a bigger name. So if you had to attach a bigger name to a movie, he's already in his early 30s, which we've talked before about the Clone Wars, where Anakin would have to be 30, maybe 40 when they start, because by the time he dies in Return of the Jedi, I feel like he's like mid 60s, late 60s, man. I mean, look at Alec Guinness.
And I don't know if there's a canon or a guide for how old he technically is. But see, I wouldn't go off of that. I go by what they look like. So in Return of the Jedi and all that, he looks older. Just like Obi-Wan. How old would you say Obi-Wan looked in New Hope? Like just physically, how did he look? Not how old he's supposed to be in the
I don't know. He looked like 68 to 70. Like he.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, he moved slow. He was slow to talk, slow to speak. So it's kind of like
right. So like when we were talking about the if he was real quick spin off of that kind of question is if Obi-Wan looked 60, like you said, 60 something to early 70s in New Hope, which I'd have to look at again. It might be that he looked a little younger, but I'm getting that kind of mid 60s to early 70s vibe. But so if he was that old in New Hope, then how old could he have been during the Clone War? He could have still been older during the Clone Wars.
Right, which is what I'm saying is like he
could have been 50 something.
Right. So here, like, okay, because I imagine when a Jedi leads an army, they're already like a general. There's no ranking. They kind of just listen to him. So that's where I would just be like, yeah, Obi-Wan's like 50. Anakin's maybe, if Anakin is the same age as Obi-Wan, which I don't want them.
No, he's younger, right? Because you got to establish that whole.
Okay.
When I last met you, I was the learner,
right.
So he is younger, but he doesn't have to be a kid younger.
Well,
he can be.
Well, yeah.
If his master's 50 something, then he can be
mid
30 something. Yeah.
Right, but see, what I was thinking was if they redid that where they were almost the same, I guess, in the same learning or the same, I don't know, like class
at the same stage.
Yeah, same stage, but Obi-Wan got ahead of the headstrong Anakin, which is why another reason why he thought the Jedi were, not good and stuff like that. He could have been like, oh, well, we're kind of the same age, but I don't mean like a 20-year difference between the characters, because then it ties into my first choice with who I think should play Anakin in the prequels. But remember, this is an older, late 30s, mid 40s type actor.
Okay.
But just bear with me. But just think about it.
Okay.
I think it should be Javier Bardem, but where he's in his No Country for Old Men style. You remember how he was big, like he felt bigger than he was. He would just walk real slow, and then I thought he already has he can do an American accent, or he could do whatever accent. Doesn't even matter. Anakin doesn't have to be American white male. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, James Earl Jones's voice, does he have an accent of some sort in there?
I don't think he does.
Or does he just speak proper?
No, I think he just speaks proper. And honestly, I was thinking about it. I was like, man, Javier Bardem could pull that off. And then we have James Earl Jones's voice, which we could just, say, but the properness where he holds his belt, where he acts a little bigger than he is.
Slower moving until he has to do an action, or when he walks,
which is
he
where
walks with a little bit of a faster pace, but he's slower moving otherwise.
Right, which is where I was like, oh man, I think that would be absolutely my favorite thing, is if Javier Bardem with the style of No Country for Old Men.
No, I get it, because he has a look that's not exactly mainstream or whatever.
Exactly.
Like he has another element where has a foreign maybe look, and then he also has a little age, and he also has just a different look to him. So I get from that point of view, yeah.
Right, and then Star Wars is not usually known for getting the big name actors. Like nobody knew who Diego Luna was until Rogue One. You know what I mean? Or no one knew. I mean, besides
he's actually from some. There was always a foreign movie on Netflix I always passed up.
Is it E2 Mama something?
Yeah, it has a Y in there.
Yeah.
And I always passed it up, but I looked up, it was him. I was like, oh, wow. And I think he was like a boy or boyish age in that.
Yeah, he's younger in that. I think I saw that movie one time, or I flipped through it.
Real quick, so the Army Hammer, so that route's going with a more famous name.
Right. And this was one point I didn't get to. He's already 6'5". That dude's really tall. He's a big guy. Yeah. And I was like, well, there you go. That's why Vader's so tall. Like, we don't have to go, well, we got a short guy or a shorter guy, and we need him to reach this, this height.
Not.
So let's make his robotics make him taller, which was the whole thing with Hayden Christensen with the Darth Vader that there is, because Hayden Christensen was only like 6'2". So they said that height difference came from his cybernetics. And then I thought with Javier Bardem, I was like, well, you could keep that in there because Javier Bardem's only 5'11". I mean, he's slightly taller. Yeah, he's slightly taller than me. You know what I mean? Like he
reads like he's 6'2" or something.
That's what I'm saying, and that's where I was like, this guy can portray anything, like almost how Tom Hardy, who's our height, he's 5'8", 5'9". He came across as this Bane that we believed. You know what I mean? So I was like, well, that's just how you would shoot Javier Bardem. Like he would just his presence on the screen is the whole thing, because I mean, like we've talked about before, Anakin has to already kind of be like Vader. He can't literally just get hurt and burned or whatever, and then he's this whole different personality. There's no more like at least how Lucas portrayed him, where it was there's these emotions and he misses his mom and he loves his wife, and you didn't get any of that in the originals. You just got this stoic, machine.
Militant by the book.
Almost. I mean, like.
But he was still reasonable. I was never afraid of him. He's like he had conversations. A bad guy that has conversations with you, it's like he'll give you a little bit of way to argue your case, but then he'll decide his ultimate, decision. But with him, it was like he was actually sitting there with Leia and going, he was discussing, whether she was in trouble or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that your phone?
Yeah. Oh my God. And then I gotta silence it when it's in this case. So
that's fine. What time do you have on your counter?
I have. Let's see. 9. That was about 9:18. Let me write that down.
But yeah, so Darth Vader, he so that gets into the conversation of, is Darth Vader, he's the same person after he gets into the suit. He's
just more of a machine or something. It's
right.
I mean he's just I
imagine he's the same exact mental state. There's no brain damage, there's no. Now, sometimes they kind of allude to that his machine part of him is overtaking his decisions, but I don't think that would affect his personality. Like, he doesn't talk more robot-like.
Right.
I mean, he has the voice. Now, okay, so the reason his voice is different, is that because that's a disguise, disguiser for who he really is, or is that just like part of his breathing apparatus? Kind of.
I don't know,
it's like
because
a side effect of having the breathing apparatus machine.
I mean, honestly, I thought about it like how the smokers have the little microphone where it was almost a thing for your
vocal cords are damaged. Okay,
yeah. The vocal cords are damaged, or something's damaged, or something like that. So he still has his booming voice, I guess, like Javier Bardem would with that deep voice, but when the helmet goes on, I actually have a note about this. Further down, we talked about, was Vader already part machine before he was evil?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking the other day. Yeah.
Okay, so What I have written down is it depends. I've always thought that when Alec Guinness said that Vader is more machine than man, that meant Vader's turn towards evil was because he had become more machine. And, and the more machine he became, the more humanity he lost. So it's almost it's almost supernatural. Like it it could or couldn't work. I don't know. But also, if Anakin is going to be headstrong and be the type of person where if no one can get it done, he will get it done. Like during the Clone Wars, like he was, like that. He's bound to get damaged or run into situations where he gets hurt because of an explosion or something. Like, and so this was another point was, when I was watching Return of the Jedi, honestly, I didn't think Sebastian Shaw looked burnt, like a burn victim. Really? So, so to me, I was kind of like, what? Wait, Vader doesn't even have to be a burn victim. He doesn't have to be someone who has grafted on skin and stuff like that. Because honestly, he just looks like a guy who's been poked and prodded for his entire life, and he hasn't seen any light other than a phosphorescent light or whatever. Yeah. In an Imperial base, those white, doctor lights, and then he's always in a suit, so of course he's going to be pale, but he never looked like a burn victim to me. He just looked like a dude who had just been torn apart and beat up, and just like his body, he just keeps his body going because of the machine. So I mean, and that's where I was like, well, I mean, if he lost his arm and he lost his legs and he got stabbed through the chest or through some lungs, or he got hit in the throat or something, and that's why he wears the breathing apparatus, like, why don't we do that and like have this torn up person, and his wife is like, that's not the Anakin I know. This guy's more machine. She runs away. It's honestly, that would be a much more compelling first 3 episodes than just straight up last movie goes in, kills younglings, and then he has yellow eyes, and we're like, that's Vader. I mean, that was horrible, and it was terrible.
I will say, I don't think he should have ever killed kids. Like, I thought that was the stupidest move I've ever seen. But I agree. They should. They shouldn't rush the. He's a full man with like his hand cut off, and then all of a sudden at the end they got to rush that he gets in this terrible accident, and then rush that he gets in the suit.
Right. See,
that's why I was kind of thinking maybe he's actually, to the extent that he turns to machine, maybe all that happened before he decided to, go to the Empire, and it just kind of, so it would have happened during the Clone Wars. He had the injuries, extreme injuries, to where he's like, he doesn't join the Empire and turn any more machine. He's already all the machine. Right, exactly. Before like he turns to the Empire. See, it's just he turns to the Empire because, well, that's why you got to find your motive. Why does he go to the Empire? And it has to. I think it would have to have something to do with that he's lost for some reason. Well, that gets into another discussion. But for some reason, he's lost faith in the Jedi, or someone has gone in there and tainted him to where you can't trust them. So if you can't trust the organization, you have to destroy it. Right. Blah 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 blah. And which I think can be part of the Clone Wars. Plot line, but I think that in some of the stuff they probably already did. We don't know. Right. Somebody will probably say, "Oh, that's what they already did." You're just not focusing on what was already written. But it's like, well,
yeah. But I mean, I'm not gonna. I mean, it's not that I don't appreciate any of the books that exist and the other things like that. But like I said, we pretty much just base everything off the original trilogy because those are the only movies we've been happy with. And then Rogue One came along and we're like, oh man, and it re-sparked our, fire to talk about things in, the direction they should move and stuff like that. But anyway, with the prequels, we've talked about it where the whole thing should just be 1, 2, and 3. That's pretty much the Clone Wars. Like, we don't have a boy Anakin with one-liners. We don't have a young Obi-Wan. We should just literally be thrown into it where they're people, they're almost these, it's basically the setup for the Clone Wars. So
wait, episode 1 or
basically episode,
so your Clone Wars span how long? How many movies do your Clone Wars span?
2, if not 3. But okay. But I mean,
and this relates to how old Darth Vader should be. This is why we're having to get into this backstory stuff just to answer the question of who should be cast as Darth Vader, because it's
Right.
it's kind of like, well, what age is it, and then what happened? You know, I don't know. It's all related.
Alright, that's the end of this video, but it will be continued in the next episode. Leave some comments and let us know what you think about some of the topics we discussed. Alright, see you next time, and thanks for watching.